the paradox behind is that we are trying to be constantly productive, every day equally productive, right? Because we are comparing ourselves with men. Very often we are also in working environment when there are male colleagues and we are comparing with them, right? But in reality, I'm convinced that if you compare a man and a woman in a period of a month and not just on a daily basis, a woman can be much more productive if she follows her cycle and if she uses the superpowers that each part of her cycle actually has.
Hi, Urska. Welcome to Her Perspective.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you for having me.
Very excited. We have a lot of interesting topics to talk about, all centered around holistic health, which is your area of expertise. But you haven't always worked in wellness industry, have you?
No, not really. I grew up in Slovenia, where I studied to become a lawyer. But then one summer in a nice Tuscany villa, I met like this charming Italian who was living in Paris. And a couple of months after, I fell in love with him and I moved with him to Paris. So I followed my heart. I was sure that this was a great decision. But when I came here, I realized that it's not that easy for me to convert my Slovenian law diploma into a French one. So at that point, I was searching for something new, and I always loved fashion. And living in Paris, I thought, okay, Paris is the capital of luxury. So I inscribed to l'Institut Français de la Mode, and I studied international luxury management, which I loved. I loved the school, and then I worked for around 5 years in fashion and luxury industry, which was fun. And I still believe that fashion industry is like one of the most creative ones. But at one point, I felt that I wasn't really living my purpose. I felt unhappy. Then I also saw a lot of like people who were dealing with burnouts around me, who were working long nights just because it was fashion week, even though they were completely exhausted. And also I felt that like what we are doing, it's not really helping people to make them feel better. Basically, I felt that the fashion industry created a lot of frustration in people. So I felt that I need a new change. I did feel a bit guilty because I wasn't even 30 and it felt like, okay, I'm changing my career again. But then I remember I came across the Japanese concept called ikigai. It's this concept in Japan, they believe that every person has their own purpose. And ikigai is kind of intersection of what you love to do, what people need, or how you can serve others, and also what you can be paid for, basically. So then I remember I was thinking, what is this? And I realized that the only thing I really love talking about since I was a child, basically, is a healthy lifestyle. Anything related to health, wellness, healthy food, all this. Like when I was 10, I remember I was advocating for healthier lunches in school, really. Like when I was 15, I got like a national prize in knowledge of diabetes, you know. I was practicing yoga 20 years ago when I was a teenager, basically. So I always loved talking about it. I loved superfoods. When I moved to Paris in 2013, I remember I wanted to buy ashwagandha, which for me was like something normal to get, but it was impossible to get. You know, now in every anti-stress supplements, you will find ashwagandha, like for sleep support, hormonal support. Back then was impossible to get it, and I just love talking about all these things. And I realized that people really like to listen, you know. I felt that these things were obvious for me, but for others, they were new. So then in 2019, I found out of existence of this IIN, Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which was the first health coaching school. I did the online program, otherwise the school is based in New York. And yeah, this is how I started my career in holistic health.
So interesting. So actually, you're basically interested in this your whole life, but it made you, the burnout made you realize that you can actually make a living of it, and that's what you should be doing.
Yes, definitely. Like I didn't even consider it as a profession back then because I just thought that's like something normal, like that everyone is interested in.
Everyone
you know?
should be interested in it.
And then, you know, like in Slovenia, it's a small country. And if you're a good student, you either study law or medicine, basically.
Yes.
I was afraid of blood, so I never studied medicine. That's why I studied law. But it took me a while. But yeah, now I'm
It's so
really
funny
happy.
how this culture similarities, because it's the same in Poland. Where I grew up, it was also like the only normal jobs you had was either law or like politics or maybe like becoming a doctor. It was like basically your free options to secure a life and be like an adult job.
Exactly. But then I loved law. Like, don't get me wrong. I went into law because I really wanted to help people. I love studying law and all this. Um, but yeah, just when, you know, sometimes life gives you lemons and you need to make a lemonade out of it. So I like moved to Paris and found another pet.
And then you created Mindful Glow, which blends internal well-being and external beauty. What was the gap that you saw in the market that led you to create Mindful Glow, and what's your approach?
So I noticed that, like, as women, often when we talk about beauty, we mostly talk about skincare and aesthetic procedures, right? There is the entire beauty industry behind it, and if we have like a skin issues, we would go to see dermatologists, and dermatologists will give us some creams, basically. No dermatologist will ever talk to you about your lifestyle, about the food. Okay, maybe if you're really allergic to something, then they will give you antihistaminics, but that's more or less it, right? And then you have the second part, which is in health coaching sphere, it's more talked about. So it's more like nutrition, digestive health, stress management, nervous system support, and all these things. But I noticed that there's a big connection between these two, especially from my personal experience, because I was suffering from eczema my entire childhood. Basically, this was also one of the reasons why I really got interested in healthy lifestyle, because I was always searching for some kind of natural solutions, right? So yeah, I found that it's only in our modern medicine or our modern world that we are separating beauty from the way we feel, from our internal health, right? But all the traditional medicines, let it be traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, or naturopathy, they all support and they all talk about connection between our skin and our internal health, right? Very often you had like gut microbiome specialist, right? So she was talking about it also. There is a big connection between our microbiota and our skin, with our brain, of course, but at the end, everything is connected. So yeah, I wanted to join these two things. And then also, I specialized in Tao Face Yoga, which I practiced when I was 18. I learned it from my beloved teacher and mentor, Savina Tai, who created this method in junction or in partnership with Taoist master Mantak Chia. He's a very world-known, now I think 83 years old, Taoist master. And they created this method together, and it's very much inspired by Taoism and traditional Chinese medicine that always looks in our internal state, our internal energy, and the state of it, and how it manifests on our faces. And the real like Taoist masters, they wouldn't like take your blood exam to diagnose you. They will look at your face, basically. So they believe that when we are in good health, when we have good energy, when the chi in our body it's flowing, this will be seen on our faces. So I realized that it goes in the two directions. If we feel good, we will look good, basically. And we look good when our bodies are have like hormonal balance, when our nervous system is regulated, where our gut health is healthy, and so on.
What would you say is the main struggle women have when they come to see you?
So mostly they come for the visible issues that they
external
have.
effects.
Exactly. So for a bit like not all, like I have two different typologies of clients. One would be in their 20s. For them, it's very often hormonal issues, which is more like PCOS, endometriosis. Then in their 30s, it's more like fertility issues. And then also face-wise would be a lot of like loss of tone, the first wrinkles, a lot of tension, jaw pain, and so on. So it seems like there are different issues, right? But what I noticed, what these women have in common most of the time, is that they are actually trying to do too much. Nowadays we have so much information, but we don't really know what to do with it. So we are just like we are trying a new diet, a new biohacking trend, always trying to do something new. We track everything also, when in reality, we don't really know how our bodies work, and we are quite disconnected from our bodies. But mostly what I noticed from nature and from the cycles of nature, which brings me back to Taoism, that I draw all my inspiration from, which sees everything, which knows that everything in nature is happening in cycles, right? And we are trying to live very linearly. We are trying to produce every day more and more. We are trying to be productive the same day, the same way, basically. While our bodies, especially female bodies, are very cyclical, right? And I feel that there is this big disconnection between how our bodies actually function and how we want them to function.
But I feel like it's so hard, as you said, in the world that's aiming for productivity all the time, especially for women, to try to align to our cycles. Like, how can we, in your opinion, what's the first step to aligning to our cycles, and what are the benefits of it?
The first step is definitely trying to slow down and turn inwards and try to listen and observe our bodies. Already tracking, like I love the tracking apps, for example, but often I will see women would tell me, yes, I was ovulating 2 days ago. How do you know? Because my app told me, right? It's great, but we cannot trust too much because each body is different. So we need to learn how to observe our bodies and just listen to our bodies more. And then also just to get more information about it, because nobody actually taught us this, right? Like we had some sex education in school, but it was mostly about contraceptive pills and so on, right? And sexually transmitted diseases, basically. They didn't teach us how our bodies really work. And actually, the paradox behind is that we are trying to be constantly productive, every day equally productive, right? Because we are comparing ourselves with men. Very often we are also in working environment when there are male colleagues and we are comparing with them, right? But in reality, I'm convinced that if you compare a man and a woman in a period of a month and not just on a daily basis, a woman can be much more productive if she follows her cycle, and if she uses the superpowers that each part of her cycle actually has. So if we rest at the right time, so for example, if we really say, okay, I don't need to earn to rest. For me, rest is a part of the process. If we rest on our period, we will be much more productive when we are in our follicular phase or when we are ovulating. So sometimes it's just like observing our bodies, learning about different phases of the cycle, and then adjusting it can be nutrition, sport, but even our work, the way how we structure our work. If I know it's not always possible, but at least some projects we can divide them into parts where we are more like where our inspiration is big, so we will use this inspiration, and they're on the parts when, for example, they're great for, let's say, accountability or searching for like small mistakes in a text or editing or so on, right? So it just, men are like sun, right? Their hormonal system resets every day, basically. And we are like the moon. We need to go through the phases of emptiness to be full again. It's natural part of it. And if we're trying to fight it, then actually this is, for me, the reason why there are so many burnouts, fertility issues, even skin issues, when we have lack of energy and so on.
Also, I've been researching a lot about like women who do sports and how they didn't see a lot of results when they were training like men, like lifting a lot of weights, like all the time for the whole month. And when they adjusted the training to their cycles, and actually still kept weighting waves, but not that much. Mm-hmm. And then combined it with like more like Pilates, yoga, and more like slow movement and trainings.
Definitely, because in our bodies are affected by our hormones, not just when we are fertile and when we are not, or like over a course of a month, it's not just our libido and fertility that is affected. It's also how our brain works, our emotions, this I know that we all know, but also our muscles, our bones, all parts of us are affected by variations of our hormones, basically. So definitely, if we adjust the exercise to the right phase of the cycle, and if we build the muscles when the muscles are the strongest, we will get the best result, definitely. But then there is also time for rest, that there is also time when we need to focus more on cardio and so on.
What about nutrition? Because I've also heard some people saying that we should adjust nutrition and eat different things according to our cycles.
Yes, definitely. I still believe that number one adjustment should be done seasonally. So, in Taoism, we have like these three biggest cycles. So first are the seasons. The second is the circadian rhythm, which is also very important, and Taoism has been teaching it for 5,000 years. And now I think in 2019, this same knowledge got a Nobel Prize, right?
Really?
So this is the beauty of it, that like all the ancient practices, now they are getting confirmation in modern science as well, right? So yes, adjusting to the circadian rhythm as well. But then also, of course, to our cycle. We need to know that in the second half, so after our ovulation, we can use between 100 to 300 calories more. Our bodies need so much more of energy, right? So if we keep the same diet, for example, over a course of a month, we will be calorie deficient. And then what happens when, when girls say, yeah, I have PMS and I finished the entire, everything I had, or like I finished the entire chocolate? Because your body actually needed more energy, but you didn't provide it. And then at one point, you just cannot control yourself anymore. And you will just eat more. But then, of course, it's also different different nutrients that we need over a course of a cycle. So I organized this workshop that when we do the bliss balls, and it's a really beautiful workshop because it's, you know, girls talk between them. We share a bit like how our cycles go and so on. But then for each phase of the cycle, we create different bliss balls or like energy ball recipe with ingredients that support that phase of a cycle the most, right?
Could you give us an example of nutrients that are needed for every cycle?
Yes, for example, during our period, so what is happening on our period? We are shedding the uterine lining, right? So we want to replenish these reserves. We lose a lot of iron and a lot of minerals. So for example, just the bliss balls recipe would be with a black sesame. We'll add some salt also, but then also on that time of the month, it's great to keep your body warm. It's always like, so our menstruation, our period, is like our inner winter, right? So imagine what you need in winter. You need to keep your body warm. So for example, great things are bone broths, even red meat, liver. I know not everybody likes this, but it's like very nourishing. And everything that is very concentrated. So this is why I say like black sesame, for example, beetroot, stuff like this.
Okay.
Then in our follicular phase, so after the period is over, this is our inner spring. So we need like more fiber. We need to support the estrogen also. But also, like, this is our visionary phase of the cycle. So we want to support our focus. So like the bliss balls, we make them with matcha, for example, that has, you know, the L-theanine that will give us focus, but without raising our adrenaline too much. And then food-wise would be, this is a phase when we need more raw foods also. Still, it's always important to keep our digestion warm. So like, I'm not a supporter of like cold smoothies and raw salads.
At all?
No, so sometimes, if ever, then in the summer and in our follicular phase, but definitely like for women's health, we shouldn't have any ice, anything cold.
Really?
I say even like when you have an ice cream in the summer, try to warm it up in your mouth before you swallow it. But that's for the digestion part, but also for our reproductive health, right?
And also like for the external, because another trendy thing that we've heard a lot, it's ice bath. But
Yes.
actually it's not so good for women, right?
I just talked about that today, mostly about the contrast therapy, because yes, I'm a big believer in sauna and detoxification with sauna. And the ice bath, there is time in life for everything, I would say. I definitely wouldn't recommend this to women that are trying to conceive. I think it's a great thing to use after menopause, or if you really need to use it in the follicular phase of the cycle, right? And especially important, what ice bath does is it raises your stress hormones, basically to build the resilience, right? Stress resilience. But most of us are already so stressed that we don't need extra stress, right? So yeah, mostly warm your bodies. Like in traditional Chinese medicine, we just, like, the women's body needs to stay warm.
But that's why for the ice bath, like I've tried to do it a few times. That's why it's usually they do meditation before, so then you can calm yourself, and then your body doesn't go into stress mode. But I think most of people don't realize how to do it. And as with everything, we just go into trends so fast without doing research and actually understanding what it does to our bodies.
Definitely, because, you know, there is mental stress, but then there is also biological stress. then for sure, I'm not saying like if you will do it once or twice as an experiment, it won't harm you. But I wouldn't recommend this on a regular
Daily basis. You've talked about Tao Face Yoga. So could you tell me more about it? Is it the same as normal face yoga or like a sculpture face yoga? Can it sculpt your face? Can it lift your face?
So I do two things. One is sculptural facelifting, which is the massage where I receive clients and I massage them. And it's called sculptural because actually it won't sculpt your face, because your face is not it's not a piece of clay, you know. But what it does, it really releases tensions in your face, basically. So it might change definitely the way your face looks, right? Because most of us, especially with the stress of every day, we have a lot of tension in the jaw area, between the eyes, in the temples, and so on. So I see very often with women that, especially when they come regularly for like a couple of sessions, that their face become slimmer. Then I also work on the lymph drainage. So often if the face looks puffy, it's because there is too much lymph stagnation with toxins or extra fluids, right? So when we take this out, the face will change. And the sculptural the Tao Face Yoga, it's different concept. It's not the face yoga you probably saw on Instagram before. I'm actually the only Tao Face Yoga teacher in France.
Really?
Because my teacher who created it, she's in Slovenia, and as I said, she created this together with Master Mantak Chia. And it's very much inspired by Taoism, who is mostly supporting the energetical flow. And everything we do, we address the glands in our brain. So in Tao Face Yoga, we say that the beautifying or anti-aging effect, it's kind of the secondary effect of the practice. The main effect and goal we are trying to achieve is the stimulation of the glands in the brain, because with the exercises that we do that look like very funny exercises, you participated in the workshops, so you know how they are. I always say don't do this in public, but it's a nice practice to do at home or in a group of girlfriends. But we stimulate the glands in the brain, and we know that the glands in our brain, in Taoism, they call them the crystal palace. I like to explain this as the CEO office of our bodies, basically, because if these glands work and function optimally, they will actually regulate our nervous system and mostly our hormonal system. So if these glands function optimally, probably all the other glands, hormonal glands, endocrine glands in the body will do their job as well, right? So this is kind of the beauty from within also, because we really regulate the hormonal system, which in consequence can be seen on the face. But then, can it sculpt your face? Yes, because we also, most of the exercises are imagined like a resistance training, but for your face, right? Now we hear everywhere that after we turn 30, we need to do more like resistance training for our bodies, because we lose very fast our muscle mass. But the problem of muscle mass loss is mostly the bone density loss that mostly manifests after we turn 50 or after menopause, when we don't have the estrogen support anymore, right? And it's the same thing with the face. Very often you will see like really old ladies, sometimes their faces look like they shrinked, you know? But it's not the issue of the skin. It's not that the skin sagged. It's mostly that they lost the muscle mass on the face, and then consequently the bone mass. So their faces, their skulls basically become smaller. So with Tao Face Yoga, we do exercises where we use resistance and opposite resistance to build volume and release tensions when in the parts of the face that we are using too much in our daily lives.
So would you say it's the best solution for women who have also hormonal problems? Like can Tao yoga itself regulate hormonal issues?
Yes, definitely. But again, this is why I created Mindful Glow, because I believe in holistic approach. I don't think it will help, definitely. But if you will keep sleeping at the wrong hours, if you will keep living the life that doesn't really support your body, it's not a miracle solution either, but it's a very great add-on.
So what would you say are the worst enemies for hormonal health for women in our everyday life?
Lack of sleep, definitely. Lack of light exposure. Basically our hormones are regulated through regulation of circadian rhythm. So I always advise to women, like, as soon as you wake up, like, if you can go out, because we say sunlight, but actually I need to correct myself, it's a daylight. We need to see the daylight in the morning, which will regulate, it will set the machine basically, you know, to work. If our circadian rhythm is regulated, then also our infradian rhythm or our menstrual cycle will adjust to it.
Even if there's no sun outside?
Yes, even if there is no sun outside. There is much more light outside than inside with the lights on. Definitely. So this, and then also, as I said, like, we are kind of trying to be too perfect instead of like listening to our bodies. Very often I see with my clients when we talk about nutrition, right? They're like, yes, but I've been eating so well, but then at 5 p.m. I just eat everything I saw. Yes, because for you so well, it means you are actually not eating enough. I think it's really important to balance our blood sugar, to have like a good protein breakfast in the morning. Focus on protein, fiber. We need like 35 grams of fiber per day at least. And good fat also, you know. There was this, when I was young, I remember there was this, everything was fat-free. Because it was popular, right? The fat was the biggest culprit of all the diseases. But actually, no, like, we need fat, we need good quality fat, we need cholesterol to build our hormones. So very often the good quality fat or cholesterol, it's the building block of our hormones. So very often we are eating good, but in not good for our bodies, you know. It's what we were told that it's a healthy way of eating.
And also by this, by restraining diet, we put our body into stress, and I feel like stress is so related with hormonal health, and it's the main cause of like most of our health problems.
Definitely, because, you know, in the body, our bodies, they want to make babies every month, basically. And this is why we are here, basically, evolutionary speaking, right? But your body also knows that if you are in a stress, you're incapable of taking care of another person, so the baby. So if our stress hormones are raised, our sexual hormones or reproductive hormones are low. It's impossible to have the two of them high, right? And yes, we need our sexual hormones. In Taoism, they believe that like sexual energy is the life energy, and sexual energy is balanced sexual hormones. But we are kind of dimming our lights to fitting in the society, you know. And it's also this, letting ourselves be in our women essence. This is
and also in the world that's actually shaming women to age and making women to aim for perfection. Like, what's your advice What's your definition of aging gracefully?
For me, I lost my mom when I was 18, and she was 46 when she passed away. So I believe that like aging is a big privilege. And I see even with myself that with every year, I am connecting with deeper
More of yourself.
levels of myself. And for me, this is real aging. It's really connecting with your true self. And when I say about, I don't talk about anti-aging, because anti-aging, it's looking younger, right? I really want to talk about graceful aging, which is basically having enough strength and energy also in the older age to do what makes you happy and what makes you feel your best self, basically.
Yeah, and as you said, the more we age, the more we know ourselves, and the more we know
Exactly, the
ourselves,
wiser we become.
your method, I feel like it's aiming more for a preventive approach. What would you say? What would you say it's missing in traditional skincare treatments, and why also a lot of women don't see the results they want to see?
First of all, because very often we are bombarded by so many new products over and over again that we don't even have like a real skincare routine. When I talk to my clients, like what do they use? It's a bit of this, a bit of this, consistency over quantity. This is number one rule in skincare when we talk about the external approach. But then also, I think we are kind of used to in our society, it's a bit the same with our health, right? We trust so much to the doctors, but yes, we are privileged to have the access to the modern medicine, which is amazing because it can solve so many diseases. In case of urgency, it makes wonders, really. But we kind of believe that we will go to the doctor and they will save our health, when in reality we are responsible for our health, right? And healthcare should be about prevention. It shouldn't be about healing when disease is already installed. And there's a bit the same thing with our skin and the way we look, right? We already have the issues, and then we want the magical product that will heal it. When in reality, it's, yes, the consistency in the skin doesn't need that much. We just basically need to hydrate it well and use the SPF protection daily. And this is the
Sleep enough.
best. And sleep, definitely. And nourish us from within. Because our skin, it's the reflection of our internal state, of our gut health, of our nervous system, of our hormonal system, and all this. And they are basically simple adjustments to our life that we can implement that will show on the skin as well. But it's easier, as I see also with my clients, it's easier for me to sell or get a client to my sculptural facelifting because they just come and I do the job, than to Tao Face Yoga when they need to actually learn the exercises and practice. We're always searching for this magical solution when someone will heal us or save us, fix us, basically. When basically we should just implement like simple changes to our daily lifestyle that will show on our faces.
So what are the 3 basic changes that you recommend to your clients for like everyday practice?
Like lifestyle changes?
Any changes in lifestyle routines?
Again, exposure to daylight, definitely. This is super important for hormonal health. Skincare, I mostly repeat like hydration. the skin cannot age if it's hydrated, basically.
Really?
And then also from the inside, like we don't drink enough, definitely, and balanced blood sugar. That
So we shouldn't eat too much sugar.
we shouldn't eat well. If you have sugar, make sure that it's not alone. When you have sugar, which definitely, like, there are times in life, there are times to indulge and enjoy like your favorite dessert, but we shouldn't rely on sugar as a source of energy, basically. And when you have sugar, have it with like some protein or good quality fat, to reduce the blood sugar spike, basically.
That was actually a misconception, like back then when, I know how about you, but when I was a kid, our basic breakfast was like cereals, which is actually the worst thing you can give to your kid
Yeah,
to start your morning.
it raises your blood sugar, so it gives you this spike for the first like hours of the day. But then there's also the drop. So this is why there like so many kids have issues with concentration, you know, and it creates a lot of inflammation. There is more and more like skin issues, even with kids. A lot of diseases, even like a yearly, like a cold, you know, can be caused by inflammation caused by too much sugar.
Really?
So like I'm some other parents look at me a bit weirdly, but like I'm quite strict with my daughter. Like until she was 3, basically, she had 0 processed sugar. Then she had sweets, of course, but I would make them. I think that especially for our kids, it's really important how we nourish them, because at the end, if we think for us it's the same, but they are still growing, everything we eat become basically a building block of our bodies, right? So if you give them sugar, they will grow up on inflammation, basically, constantly. So we need to give them like a good quality protein. Another thing that I suggest always to my clients is like, don't count calories, count nutrients, basically, right? Maybe like protein, fat, or also like when you eat the rainbow, as we say. We need to get all these nutrients that our bodies need to function optimally, because we might be missing like just zinc, for example, and it might affect us on so many levels. And we can get all these things from the right food, right?
Yeah, of course. And also, like nowadays, there are so many people that are so obsessed with supplements, which is a good thing. But the thing is that too many supplements and too many vitamins can be as bad as not enough.
Definitely. Like our bodies, our liver need to filter all this as well.
Yeah, I think everything starts with being aware of everything and then doing your research and not just following trends.
Yes.
But just going to the right person then.
And knowing if something is right for your friend, it's not necessarily right for you. And it applies to skincare, to nutrition, to supplements, to basically everything, you know. And which brings us back to listening our bodies. Like we need to learn how to listen to our bodies. But it is complicated because nowadays we are so disconnected from ourselves. We are all the time, we are connected, we are all the time online. We have so much information, but sometimes too much information is even worse than no information.
Of course. And yeah, that's why sometimes it's just best to slow down, as you say, and then just go inward and go internally and just try to listen to yourself.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for all your knowledge and everything you shared with us. I'm so much more aware about holistic health.
It was a pure pleasure. Thank you so much. Really beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.